Welcome to Binge Theory, the coolest corner on the internet. I am Julian, your humble host, and with me today we have a new cinephile, film aficionado, presenter extraordinaire, Megan.
Hi, I'm Megan.
And this is at the Alamo Draft House. I've come here religiously, like every other day, if not every day. And one of the times I came here, they had a presentation for Pulp Fiction, right? Yeah. And Megan here was doing the presenting of the film. And were you presenting it, or were you just flying it out?
I was I was definitely hosting. I was hosting that event, dressed as Mia Wallace. That's how we met.
That is.
Yeah.
Yet I saw her and I said, "Wow!" First of all, I didn't know that the Alamo really did that because I think that was the first watch party I went to.
Was that the first movie party you ever been to?
I think so.
Really?
The first one I remember anyway. So obviously you made an impression. And I was telling Megan about this stupid show we all do called Binge Theory, and I was like, "You have that it factor. Would you please come on our show?" And she did. And also, some of the amazing people here at the Alamo have allowed us to sit here in the bar. What's the name of this? It's called the Glass Half Full. Glass Half Full.
Yeah.
There you go. See, it's a pun. I get puns. And Megan and I just saw Wakanda Forever.
Wakanda Forever.
Black Panther.
Black Panther.
The sequel following up on the box office juggernaut, the first Black Panther, which was over $1 billion in revenue.
Probably, most likely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, and we were fresh out of the theater and just wanted to get our thoughts on it. I remember saying that, to my friends and other guys on the show, I was hoping that this would be able to live to that or rise to the occasion that the first one did, because it was such an event. Mm-hmm. And this one is coming at it after Chadwick Boseman's passing.
Yeah.
Could they pull it off? And Megan, since you're new, I'll let you go first. Generally, what are your thoughts on it? Did they rise to that level? What is it like a... Yeah, you tell me what your thoughts are.
I personally really liked it a lot. I was very impressed. I think that out of all, I feel like this kind of post, Infinity War, kind of Marvel movies that are coming out that haven't really been kind of impressive and maybe have come out, except for maybe Loki, but I don't know if that would really, I would really count that because it's a TV show.
Right. The series have been strong, some of them.
Some of them, yeah, but I feel like Loki was very strong and I like that one a lot, but I feel like some of the other movies have been a miss for me, or maybe I just don't have the same excitement that I used to for Marvel movies. But I feel like this one, I think, might be my favorite thing I've seen since that post Infinity War film, which was what, 2019?
Oh yes. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. This is Phase 4, right? Yeah. So
we're knee deep into Phase 4 now. This is the end of Phase 4, middle to end.
But the funny thing, because you're mentioning Loki,
yeah.
Because again, Marvel likes to double down during the trailers before we even saw the movie. They had Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania.
I haven't seen that show. I popped in really late to this movie. I haven't seen the trailer actually.
Well, the trailer's sick. It's
really?
sick,
okay.
And it has what's his name? Majors. I forget his name.
Jonathan Majors.
Jonathan Majors.
Oh, because he was in Loki. He was at the end of Loki. Spoiler alert. Sorry to the people who haven't watched that.
Yes.
But,
yeah, he was there.
Yeah.
Playing. What's the name of the character? Kang the Conqueror.
Kang the Conqueror.
Kang the Conqueror. And he's in Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania. And here's the funny thing: during the trailers, and you didn't see this, but he's all over the place because he's also in Creed 3.
The actor, yeah. I was about to be Kang the Conqueror is in Creed 3.
No, what he does is because he's in the quantum realm. He just goes from movie to movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but yeah, he plays a character in Creed 3 that Killmonger or Michael B. Jordan has to fight.
Yeah.
And again, first of all, yeah, we got to go through this cast because everybody was in this.
Yeah, it's a really good cast. I feel like I was trying to keep up with the characters' names. You know what? The one that surprised me the most. I feel like I didn't really. I went into this not really knowing that much about it. I'd seen the trailers, but I didn't really know that much about it. So I didn't know Riri Williams, who's supposed to be the new Iron Man. I didn't know she was in this.
Yeah.
And then she showed up, and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, is this supposed to be that character that's the new Iron Man?
And I think her name is Ironheart. Yeah.
Hold on, pause.
She's Ironheart. Which is again, but and only because I'm a novice comic book fan. I know a little bit of the source material, and plus on YouTube they show a lot of the comics explained and stuff like that. And they did a thing on her where Riri Williams was Ironheart, an MIT student who was just so ahead of her time. She saw Tony Stark and she's like, I can do that, you know.
She's like, I can do that better.
Just like I saw Joe Rogan experience and said, yeah, I can do that, you know. Look stupid and talking to a camera, you know. Sure, who doesn't do that?
Yeah.
And so yeah, Riri Williams is in it. Letitia Wright. Now, what are your thoughts on her? Did she, you know?
She killed that. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think she did very good. Very, very, very strong performance. Are we getting into spoilers now, or are we just kind of going?
Let's stay spoiled just for like 5 minutes. Generally, so she killed it.
I think she did very, very good, and I was very impressed too. Because the only thing I'd seen her in, the only thing I've really ever seen her in was the first Black Panther. Like, she hasn't really done. I don't really know if she's done anything after that or anything like super. I was literally just looking up now. Yeah, the internet has all the answers. So
let's see.
Black Panther.
Sing
to. Oh, she was in Death on the Nile. That's right.
And she was in Small Axe. That was that series that. Yeah.
But I feel like she was in Ready Player One. I didn't realize that. But I feel like mainly. Oh, she was in Black Mirror. Have you seen that episode of Black Mirror?
I did.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
I just remembered that she wasn't that.
I love Black Mirror.
Right.
It's too much. Black Mirror, Love, Death, and Robots. I love all these, dark, cynical takes on technology.
Yeah. Very good. But I did, remember that she was in that. But I feel like Black Panther is really what she's known for, and so I haven't really seen her have any really exceptional, amazing, acting kind of scenes. So for this, I think it was really good. She kind of stepped up to being the lead character of this movie after Chadwick Boseman's passing, and I think she did a really good job. So
I couldn't agree more. I mean, and when we get to the spoilers, I'm going to talk about her arc and how she brought it. But yeah, they brought back Lupita Nyong'o.
Yes.
Denai Guerrera.
Angela Bassett.
My man Mbaku.
My favorite from the first movie.
I didn't think he had enough time though.
No, but I feel like he was kind of it was a rehash of what his character was in the first movie. There's not a lot of kind of there was more depth to his character, I think, in this one because he in the movie I feel like he's kind of trying to become kind of a mentor for Shuri. So there's a little more depth in his character in this one, but there's because there's so much going on. I don't think they really have time to be okay, let's give Mbaku a deep backstory. So
there was so many not narratives, but different storylines that were kind of tying in. I don't think they could really give the characters enough development.
Yeah.
So first of all, I got to talk about Angela Bassett, and wow,
yeah, she kills it. No matter what she's doing, she kills all her roles. Honestly.
Yeah,
and
I've been a fan of hers, obviously since What's Love Got to Do with It, the Tina Turner biography, and
she's been in the industry for a long time.
Oh yeah,
a long time.
Yeah. And I'm sorry she, we'll get to her monologue or that little speech where.
Yeah. The one that's kind of towards the beginning.
No.
Beginning, middle-ish.
It's the one where she's talking to Denai.
Yes, that one. That was that's not beginning, but kind of. I feel like the movie was so long. It was kind of the first hour of the movie.
It was. It was
the end of the first act.
3 hours long.
It was, but you know what? It didn't feel that long. That's what I was. Yeah, because I remember going to this. Man, that's 2 hours and 41 minutes. That is a runtime. But it didn't feel that long at all, and I feel like they used every minute of that. It's not a moment where I felt bored.
I would say one of the things that stood out to me was the care that went into this movie. Because a Marvel movie's a Marvel movie, but you can tell when somebody's all in. They're I want this to be. I want this to say something, and just the cinematography and the special effects, and the cultural resonance they have.
Yes.
I mean, especially with the Mayans and the African. I mean, even though it's not a real country, but
there's a lot of there's a lot of kind of representation in this in terms of like nations that have Mexican and like the Mayans like being colonized by the Spanish, and of course Africa being colonized as well. Like these nations that could have been like that. I mean, that was kind of the main focus of the first Black Panther. Was like, what could these African nations have been if colonization had never happened? It was like an ideal world. You know what I mean? Like a dream. Like to have these resources in like the palm of your hand and being able to utilize them for your own country, for your own needs, instead of being stripped away,
and being able to develop unmolested by outsiders.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
This is where, uninterrupted, they would have progressed to.
Yeah, and I think that was the point of the first movie. So I feel like this one kind of taking that and then putting that like it was interesting them kind of having like the enemy be kind of similar civilization where they're in the exact same position. Are we going to get into spoilers?
Let's go. All in spoilers.
Yeah, I feel like it was really cool that they kind of had this civilization that's kind of like a mirror version of Wakanda, where it was again like a civilization that was colonized by the Spanish that had everything stripped away from them, and then instead kind of went into hiding and developed their own advanced society. And of course, feeling threatened, they were like, "You either need to join us, or we'll kill you." So I think that was really interesting that they did that as a second movie, and it kind of has a similar thing to what the first movie was but it was I guess more on bigger scale, but it was like two civilizations that are against each other. But I feel like the first movie was more of like T'Challa versus Killmonger and their ideals of like kind of the effects of
their role.
The effects of colonization in terms of like, I feel like the first movie, like I feel like this one, like the second movie, felt more cohesive as a film than the first one did. But I feel like the first one just had so much. There was so much that they were trying to tell in terms of like what the devastation of like colonization and like diaspora and like things like that. Like there was like so much that they were trying to tackle in that first movie, and not all of it like lands, but I feel like the heart of the story was really there. And that's why I love the first Black Panther, and I think that it's one of like the most important movies that Marvel's ever made.
Absolutely.
And I feel like, but this one I feel like more cohesive in terms of like storytelling. I don't know. I would have to like see it again to like compare them, but
you first of all, you hit on a great point with the first Black Panther.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed in the first Black Panther that's similar to this one is everything's juxtaposed. So Killmonger was like, let's take over everything.
Yeah.
I want to rule. I want to, be in charge.
But,
Whereas, T'Chaka was like, no,
let's not do that.
The original Black Panthers were, no, we need to be secluded.
Yeah.
Worry about ourselves.
Yeah. But I think, going into the first one, I think the reason that it was so good was because Killmonger to me is my favorite Marvel villain in terms of the Marvel movies. Just because I feel like I completely empathize with where he's coming from. Like I completely think that he was in the wrong of where he was going with it. But I understand where it's from because in his mind, it's like Wakanda has sealed itself off from the rest of the world and has only taken care of themselves. When like the rest of Africa has been like, the rest of Africa has been colonized, and like there's diaspora all around the world. And like he's as somebody who is Wakandan when taken to America and essentially saw like the way that Black people were treated in America. He's like, why does Wakanda have all of these resources and they're not helping Black people around the world? So like in his mind, like that's how he sees it. But like obviously he took it in a way that was like kind of like it was a way that was not right. You know what I mean? But like where he started from, the idea that where he started from came from like a place he can empathize with.
Absolutely.
And I've also heard that like he's a mirror version of what's her name? Nakia, right? The Lupita's character.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, right.
Okoye.
No, Lupita's character.
Oh, I'm sorry. Nakia. Yeah.
So Killmonger's almost like a flip version of Nakia. Like they're like opposite sides of the same coin, where they have the similar ideas. Where she wants Wakanda to kind of like share the resources,
that's right.
And then the way that he did too, but his was more negative in terms of being like, oh, we could take over the world, and then hers was more like we should provide resources to help other people. Like
to use another Marvel trope, that's the Professor Xavier versus Magneto.
Yeah.
They both are feel like they're doing the right thing, but their approach is completely different. And the same with Killmonger and T'Challa. But to that point about there being opposite sides of the same coin. This was so obviously, because you were talking about it with Wakanda Forever, where you have, and especially when she was. I'm just going to jump to the end, where
you're thinking about the same scene I'm thinking about.
Exactly. When she started, here's a scene where she was basically had Namor, on his back, and she was about to do the But then he said, "Save Martha," and she didn't. She stopped because I'm joking. That's the DC. Yeah, why'd you say that name? No, but she started, realizing that they were the same.
They were the same, yeah. And I think that was the moment. I feel like it was interesting watching this because I feel like there's so many emotional moments, and there's definitely people crying in this theater.
The woman right next to me was in tears.
Yeah, people were crying like throughout the movie. Like Chadwick, kind of, in the beginning, like. The funeral that they have in the beginning, people were crying, and then spoiler alert, but when Angela Bassett's character dies towards the third act, people crying. But like I feel like I felt like it was like for me, I'm like, okay, this is kind of like Marvel kind of thing. Like it's sad, but it's kind of expected of it. But like I think that ending, when she's like looking, she has him like on his back. She's literally about to kill him, and she's looking at him, and then she realizes that they're literally in the same position. Like this could literally just be a flipped version, like they're literally like the same, the exact same position. And then she starts to see like they both lost their mothers. They both are trying to protect their countries. Like they're in the exact same position. And I think that montage that she has and that realization that she has like in that moment, I was like, oh, and like literally like.
That's what it was. Is the montage where you see juxtaposed. You see the mother, his mother. Her mother, and you see the kids playing, and just the culture, and it was so, because and I can't remember the name of the underwater city.
Teleco.
Yes, very. Yeah, I know there was
something like that. Yeah, there was 3 syllables.
and they were saying keep a secret.
Yeah,
because because we'll be pillaged.
Yeah.
They'll come for our resources. Just like they did you. And that's why I said we need to join up. And I mean, it was a little forced and a little fast, but I get what the
I was like thinking about it. I was like, they really could have gone for the American themselves. Like
That's exactly what I was thinking.
They really didn't need Wakanda to do that. They could have just gone for her herself.
But you have to set up the conflict. Because Tanoch Huerta.
Who plays Namor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Loved him.
So good.
Look, I mean, you talk about, again, just like Killmonger, which was in this too. We got to get to that. At first, when he starts telling his story, and again, you can empathize with him. And I love how they show this, and it's basically the conquistadors came and the smallpox and just decimated, and just by the plant that was growing from the
same exact, almost, it was the same exact plant, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was just the meteor was the meteor. Well, you know what? I think it was kind of a little more. It wasn't a heart-shaped herb, but because it was underwater, so it was probably like a water.
But it was similar though because it was like a glowing.
Yeah. Oh, it was plant. The same. It was the same plant, but it mutated to its environment. Like the herb is
mutated to the water. Yeah.
Exactly, and just how that it was really interesting how they said, oh yeah, this gave them the ability to breathe underwater because the plant breathed water, took oxygen out of the water. So that was interesting. It was really well thought out. Just a lot of these things, I was like, wow, that makes sense. It's not just like, there's people that live under the water. It was based on this alien rock that has powers, and obviously they don't go into the details of how the metal works, but obviously it gives power and different properties to different people. So I was all in. I was like, sure, that checks out.
That makes sense.
Now I want to go back to Letitia Wright's arc, because after Chadwick Boseman's T'Challa's passing, you can tell that she's just bitter.
She's bitter about the fact that she has all of this technology, all of these, like she's like literally one of the smartest people on earth. She couldn't do enough to save her brother. So she feels like there's which I really liked. We're gonna jump back and forth, but like the ending scene when she burns the robe, like because when her mom, like in like the beginning, like towards like in the first act of the movie, she brings her to the beach and she's like this is the tradition that we do. We burn the robe, and it gives us like a final goodbye.
It's a catharsis,
conclusion. It gives you like this way to just put it in the past.
A little bit of
closure. And she's not ready for it, and she's like. So her mom burns the robe, but she doesn't. She's like, I'm not ready. Like, I'm not. Like, I can't accept this. Mm-hmm. And then what was devastating is the scene. Like after her mom dies, she wears the exact same robe, the exact same outfit as she wore to her brother's funeral. So like when she that's what somebody. I remember somebody yes. when you see like right after her right when they do that scene, it just shows her in the exact same outfit, in the exact same.
Back here again.
And then somebody behind me was like, had like gasped, and I was like, oh man, like exact same thing because she had 2 funerals, So
that's devastating.
Yeah.
So I just realized, so when she burns it, she's burning it, putting it in her brother and her mother.
I think, and at the end, it's very, at the end of the movie, she's like, I'm ready to put it in the past. Like she's now the new Black Panther. She's, avenged. She's avenged her mother. She's, as avenged it in a way that didn't destroy who she was. And like the scene too when she's like she takes the heart and then she doesn't see her mom, she sees Killmonger. Yeah,
let's talk about that. Let's talk. I mean, I heard gasp in the audience too because
too. I was like, was it Michael B. Jordan?
Yeah, because first of all, everybody. I mean, when I saw it, at first I thought, oh, please don't let him do like a CGI Chadwick or something like that.
Oh God, that would be. I was thinking the exact same thing. Yeah. I was like, who are they going to show? I was like, they're definitely going to show the mom. I was like, there's no way they're going to show like Chadwick. Like, there's no way. But then like Killmonger out of nowhere, I was like, oh my God, like. So it was great though. Like it was really good.
And I kind of appreciate what they were alluding to with the afterlife, or the higher plane is. It's not like everybody's hanging out. It's like
they have to be called to you.
Exactly, yeah. And what was in her called Killmonger.
Yes, because it was her anger, and like she wasn't ready to like hear what her mother had to say, what her brother had to say, what her father had to say. She was ready to hear what Killmonger had to say, because she had so much anger in her heart. Exactly. And I think that in that moment, which is also a great moment, because at the end when she's about to kill him, she looks at him, and then her mother appears to her, and she goes, "Show him who you are." So she instead of killing him, she resolves it in a peaceful way because that's who she is.
Exactly.
And that's the premise of her being the protagonist and the new leader of Wakanda. So,
But I think she portrayed that arc really well.
And I think it was a good arc for her, and I'm glad that I'm really glad. I was kind of like not really sure how it was going to go with her being the main character.
Right.
But I'm glad that she stepped up to the plate and she did a great job.
I mean, especially not even knowing that was going to be the result of the sequel, because obviously nobody
nobody knew that was going to happen.
But just saying, hey, we're going to make you the focal point of the series now.
And I think that Ryan Coogler, the director, I mean, he's put so much care in all of his work that he does. He's an amazing director.
That's what I was saying is these are like personal to him.
Yes.
So it doesn't come off as like some McDonald's
cash grab.
Yeah.
Type, yeah.
And one thing I did notice was with the elephants, but I still don't think he has the CGI animals down yet. Those elephants were just
who has CGI animals?
Yeah, because no one. I remember that was one of my big gripes was the rhinos in the first one.
Yeah, that was bad.
They were a little wonky.
I will say though. I remember when they're in this movie, when they're going into the third act, I was like, please don't let it be like the third act of the first movie, because I love that movie as much as I love the first movie. There was a lot of like issues with it, and the third act was one of them.
Well, the thing is it's like you're telling the story, and then you have to jump to this big
action.
Cut to the action, and but I'll tell you what, I liked the action in this one because when they were on the boat. And those scenes they were shooting in slow motion, giving it so much more like almost like it wasn't just like melee. It was like a beautiful, like the oh snap scenes, like when the Dora Milaje jumped off the side and they were being held by the border. I mean not the border tribe, the M'Baku's tribe. and they were sliding down. It was a beautiful scene.
Yeah,
Just shot beautifully, and the effects of it. I'm going to put the elephant. The elephants that were by the river.
Yeah.
Because those look really cheesy.
Yeah.
But especially even when Namor was fighting, with his flying wing, his feet wings.
The angel wings.
Yeah, his little chicken wings, and he's going up, and just the way he's bobbing and weaving. I was all in. I was like, that's
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
I like how they did that, and it, like, you could do that and make it look super corny because it's like wings on your feet. Like, all right.
And I also really appreciated the underwater scenes.
Me too, because underwater scenes can look really bad.
Yes.
And I feel like they did a pretty good job.
I would say.
And I thought the costumes for like that. I forget what the tribe of the underwater people like. Their costumes, so good.
Yeah.
And I like the use of like the masks, like the water masks.
That was it was menacing, but not in. It was just like an apparatus, obviously, but it did give them kind of like that.
Strong, like warrior, like very much like, especially when they're coming out of the water, this like mysterious.
And what was the name of Atuma? I think was the big guy. The
big guy that Denai Guerrero is trying to fight.
Yes,
yeah.
Where they just called each other warrior.
Yeah,
and
the guy with the axe. Yeah,
that was so good. Yeah, he's not here on the because he's not a main player, but I liked his character, and I appreciated that Namor, like T'Challa before, was just trying to keep some people safe, and Shuri mentioned that. She goes, I like how you are keeping the people safe, because she was appreciative of the underwater kingdom and everything that he had achieved, knowing how it could have gone, and knowing the suffrage of people at the hands of others. So the fact that they were able to get away and be isolated and build their own world, because that's what
That's it's exactly like
again,
the mirror, the exact same mirror of Wakanda, which is what makes that ending so impactful. Because and I think it's the same. It kind of it's interesting because like I like it a lot because it took a lot of what made the first movie good and did it again for the second movie. Because I wasn't really sure what they were going to do for it, but I'm glad that they took what made that first movie good, because the first movie was the same thing where like it was like it almost seemed like family versus family, like brother versus brother. Like you had the community turning against each other in the first movie. And like one of my favorite scenes is like, as much as like the third act of that movie was kind of like garbage, there's a really that moment where where Niagara, it's like her and then Daniel Kaluuya's character, because they're married. That when like they're fighting and he was like,
would you fight me, my love?
Yeah, something like that. And she's like, from my country. Like,
well, that's like right out of the Civil War.
Yeah.
Because brother against brother, they have different ideologies, or they land in different camps, or whatever. Because her loyalty was, tell me that wasn't heartbreaking when the Queen Mother,
when she stripped her of her rank. I was like,
everything. You're not a general.
Yeah.
You're not the Dora Milaje.
You're nothing.
You're nothing.
That was like such a great scene from her.
But yes.
Yeah, we were.
That is the scene. Yeah. That's the Oscar scene. Because I'm telling you, I do believe she'll be nominated. I do
for this?
Believe it, yes. Well, at least that scene was.
It's hard for superhero movies to be nominated. Yeah. That'd be awesome, but I don't know. It's a hard sell.
It's becoming more and more. Heath Ledger won one posthumously, and Joaquin Phoenix won one for Joker, both for Jokers.
That is true.
Yeah. So I think, and again,
it was a possibility, potential.
People are warming up to this as actual film. Don't ask Martin Scorsese, but people are kind of warming up to comic book movies.
Yeah.
Now, but yeah, that scene where, and she broke it down too. It wasn't like, and you were like, she's got a point.
She's got a point.
She's like,
you turned against me. You turned against my family.
Exactly.
You lost my daughter. Like
everything.
You're lucky you're not. Like I was like, that's valid. And she I think in that moment she realized, she was like, okay, yeah, you're right. I did kind of screw you over a couple times.
Yeah, she goes, it was a light treason. It's a light treason.
Just a little bit, just light treason. Whatever. But I think but in that first movie, I think that her kind of loyalty to her country. But it's not necessarily that scene, but I think it's the scene after that where he's looking around and he's there's a moment, I think a slow motion where he's just seeing everybody fight each other. It's tribes who are literally all it's Wakandans fighting each other.
Oh yeah.
You see these movements moment. It's in slow motion, and then the music starts playing, and I was like, he was like, it's a moment of realization that like you can't be fighting amongst yourselves, you know.
Exactly. And speaking of, you said music playing, the score and the sound design for this,
Really good.
really good.
Yeah. And I was like thinking, it's like they didn't make. I was like, this first movie, they like had a whole album. They had Kendrick. They had The Weeknd. Like they had everybody, but like
They had Rihanna.
They have Rihanna, and I was like, Rihanna hasn't made music in like 4 years, and then all of a sudden she was like, yeah, I'm gonna do Black Panther, and I was like, okay, all right, Rihanna.
And that was a good song at the end that we played. And I'm sure the soundtrack has a lot of, like, you know, they do the beginning of a slamming track,
Yeah.
but you don't want to hear the whole song. You just hear like the intro or something like that. So
I think it's the same composer, right?
Oh,
Ludwig.
that is a good question.
I'm pretty sure I saw him, but he won the Oscar last year. He won the Oscars the year that Black Panther was.
Yes, yeah, that definitely won an Oscar.
Yeah, which he deserved. I think I remember that year it was like him versus the guy that did If Beale Street Could Talk, which I was like neck and neck, bro, because those were two amazing scores. So.
But yeah, Beale Street Can Talk. That was directed by the same guy that did
Barry
Moonlight.
Jenkins. Yeah.
Barry Jenkins.
I love him.
We got to do a whole talk about Barry Jenkins.
I love him. I've seen every interview he's done. I'm like obsessed with like just the way that he. Like the way that he views movies and the way that he views storytelling. And just I've seen like every interview he's ever done. I love him.
You know, he's great. Did I ever tell you the time I met Steve McQueen?
Steve McQueen, the director? I was like, I thought you were going to take the actor, and I was like,
not the guy
Steve
that's been
McQueen,
dead.
yeah. No. Steve McQueen, 12 Years a Slave. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Back in the day, before the Alamo was a thing, I used to go to D.C. At the East Street Theater.
Oh, yeah, up in Landmark, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I went to see all my indie films.
Yeah.
And I went there, and this was probably right around the time. It was definitely after 12 Years a Slave. I think it was like one of the shorts, when they had the Oscar shorts nominations.
Yeah.
And they just string them all together. So I was going up there, and I go to places religiously, and I was really tight with the bartender up there. And, I don't even drink, but I would just, drink coffee, and we talk movies, and he was a big movie buff. And we're just talking.
And all of a sudden,
right next to me.
You're right. And it's fucking Steve McQueen.
Here's what's crazy. Because he and I were always talking, and this was when Steve McQueen was on fire. I mean, we were fans of Hunger with him, and then he did Shane, both with Fassbender, and then he did 12 Years. Well, yeah, this is before.
This was after he.
This is right before Widow. So we were just talking about how on fire Steve McQueen was, and I am shitting you not. I'll bleep that out. Right next to me walks up, and I hear this British accent. Can Austin say please? And I turn around, and he's right there, and it's not like a crowded place. It's like a Sunday. You know what? I didn't even hesitate. I didn't even have time to even get nervous. I just stuck my hand in his face and said, I'm a huge fan of yours. And, he was really gracious. He signed a copy of 12. They had they sold DVDs upstairs. Brought it down, and he signed an autograph on it. Super cool guy.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no. And we were talking about it. Said, I love the films that you come out with, and I was, of course, I'm, acting like a cinema fan, and I'm like, I notice a lot of your films deal with the deconstruction of the main character and how they fail and then rise back to the occasion. Like Shame was, not Shame. Hunger was him literally breaking down. Shame was about a man who was broken by his broken. That's what I said. I said it was about broken people, and all the characters that he's putting out there were just broken, really damaged people. And it's like, it's my whole thing. That's exactly how he sounds. If you ever heard him talk, that's.
I forgot that he was British until you did that. And I was like, yeah, that's right, he was British. He is British. Yeah,
and what do you think about Widows? I mean, not to go too off
topic. I only saw it that one time, and I thought it was great. I thought it was great. I don't really remember that much of it, but I just remember Daniel Kaluuya.
Yes.
Killed it, and then him. then Cynthia Erivo, who I was a big fan of, I don't know if you ever watched
Bad Times at the El Royale.
El Royale, and I remember watching that here. This is before I worked here.
She blew me away.
The same, and I remember watching that movie here, and like I remember the whole, like I knew the whole cast. It was like Dakota Johnson, Chris Hemsworth, Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
It was like I knew everybody in that cast except for her. I didn't know who she was, because this was like the first thing I'd ever seen her, and she was the one that I was like, who is this? Like, she needs an Oscar nomination, she needs an Emmy nomination, she needs a Tony nomination.
Yeah, she needs
like,
the EGOT.
She needs the whole thing. Like,
because I think she's like a singer.
She did sing for that role, and I'm being like, wow, but like she stole that movie, and I was like, who is she? Like, and like I didn't really see her in much else like after that, and then
she did Harry Tubman.
She did Harry, which I still haven't seen actually. I need to watch that because they didn't show it here, which was BS.
What's that?
Yeah. Like,
that sounds political to me. But
yeah, no, she but I remember when she was little, I was like, yes, because she's so good.
Yeah,
she's such a
powerhouse.
She's so charismatic, like insanely charismatic, and I wish that she was in more stuff. She's very underrated. She's like one of my I always have this list of like actors that I think are super underrated, that just don't get like are amazing but don't get enough attention. And she's one of them. She's like the number one on my list for like underrated actors.
Yeah, she because I know what's her name, Jennifer Hudson is playing Aretha Franklin. Jennifer Hudson, yeah, I think so. The singer from the game show that became like this big actress. She was in Dreamgirls.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Cats, yeah.
Oh, don't.
She was going for that Oscar in that role, I will say.
I didn't see Cats just on principle.
So I've seen it like 3 times,
Really?
4 times. I went to see it. I was working here. Like it was the same time that Star Wars was coming out, the last Star Wars, and I was working. And remember, they tried to bury Cats under Star Wars, like because they came out at the same Christmas. They came out at the same time. They tried to bury it under Star Wars. But it was so funny because it was just such a ridiculous movie.
They were both awful.
The butthole version. No, like
yes,
I
was going to say, yeah, the Ames cut.
There was the butthole version, and then it was funny because they released it was a version that was like it was not finished being done, like it just wasn't finished being produced, and they were just trying to get it out. They were just like, okay, get it out, bury it under Star Wars. Yeah. But like I remember the first week that we had it was a version where there was buttholes on the cats, and then there was no they had human hands, like the cats had human hands. So it just wasn't finished. Like they just hadn't finished doing it.
That sounds like nightmare fuel.
Yeah, but then it was funny because our projectionists we played it here for 1 week. I remember they had it for 1 week and then they changed it over to like the actual finished version. And I remember him telling us the last day he was like, this is the last day to see the butthole version. Like everybody has to go see it because it will be gone forever. Like we will never show this version again. And I was like, okay, fair.
Yeah, the starfish cut.
Exactly. So, Jennifer Hudson, she was really going for that Oscar in that movie. And that song that she sang was great. I always get stuck in my head.
I never saw it.
Yeah, no, she was just her tears, snot, dressed as a cat. Like it was just, but as a CGI cat. So
the last music I saw was Steven Spielberg's What's That Story? You see that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I wasn't a huge fan. I just don't think I'm a huge fan of West Side Story as a story.
Well, I loved watching it.
Oh, Rachel, the actress, the
Afro-Latina?
Yes, yeah.
No, not the main one, but the friend.
The friend, yeah,
yes.
yeah, her too, yeah.
Oh.
I think the acting was very good, the production was good, but I think the story itself, I was like, I wasn't a huge, there were moments where I was like, all right, that's a choice, but not to get into spoilers for that movie, but I think the story, I'm just not really that into the story of that.
Yeah, it's
West Side Story.
I don't know. It could have been interesting if they would have moderned it up.
But they should have changed. They 100% should have changed some stuff because there was moments. Are we allowed to talk about spoilers for that movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
So first of all, it's West Side Story. It's been out for literally 50
forever.
years.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it at this point, So, but the scene when when he kills her brother, he literally kills her brother.
Yes.
And then she sleeps with him. Literally the same night. She's like, oh my god, you killed my brother. And then they sleep together. And she's like, I'm still in love with you. And I was like, he literally killed your brother.
Yes.
And I was like, at that, literally that moment, I was like, I'm done. I was like, this makes no sense.
You do have to understand that this is written by men. And the power of a man in cinema is it's overwhelming.
Yes, it is.
It's beyond reproach. They can do literally anything as long as they get the girl in the air.
Absolutely. But speaking of that, actually, going back to Wakanda.
Oh
Wakanda
yeah,
Forever,
what we're talking about.
yeah, because what
Yes.
we started this podcast on, it was very female heavy, very woman heavy. Like, and I was like, wow, like, you know what I mean? Very, very woman heavy.
I love that,
And I do too. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, because
And
first of all, it was the Dormelage,
Yes.
and like you said, Thea, Peter Nyong'o's character,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was, M'Baku was kind of the only
Guy that was
and
there.
he was there for,
Him
like,
and like Martin Freeman's character Everett Ross, which is kind of this guy not really even in this movie. And then
Yeah.
like M'Baku, the Winston Duke's character, is not even really that. And obviously you have Namor.
Yeah, no more.
Namor as like the
Yes.
main villain, but like even he was like he had this like sensitivity to him that didn't feel like I'm better than you because I'm a man. Like
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like there's a sensitivity to that character.
He was because he lived so long. I
Mm.
think he kind of was woke before there was a woke. In the sense that but also he was definitely had a god complex.
Oh
'Cause,
yeah,
First of all, they let him call him the winged snake god,
yeah, the serpent god.
serpent god, yeah,
yeah.
and also the fact that I did kind of like how they, I got to look this up, but how he got his name Namor, and how the priest was saying, you are a child without love,
Yeah, child without love.
and that's I think that's what he said. That's in that
Part of
language Namor. So that's a pretty good tie-in. If you
Yeah,
can pull
no
that
more
off.
like amor, like no love.
Yeah, no love.
Yeah,
Wow, that's a pretty clever
That's a really good
tie-in to the
Yeah.
to the culture.
But yeah, no. Other than that, I was like, well, again, like I was something about I know is because of course Shuri's the main character, and then you have
Mhm.
the mother, and then you
Yes.
have the Dora Milaje, and then you have Riri Williams,
Yes.
which I thought was great. And it was like it was a very female centric, but it was also very black female centric, which
Yes.
was super awesome to see.
It-
You know,
They do not. They lean into the fact that this is going to be a black film,
Mhm.
and it's going to portray and also how they tied in the Latin
Latin
community and with respect.
Yeah, and
And-
it's also like not even just Latin community, but like native Latin community,
Yes.
like the natives. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Which is super important because like a lot of times when you see Latin representation, Latin American representation, like Hispanic representation, it's a lot of it is like Spanish.
Yes,
You know what I mean? Like
and they differentiate it. They say no.
Oh,
When
absolutely.
they came from Spain,
yeah,
they brought this.
yeah. So there was a lot of native like Mexican representation in this, which is great because that's also like a big thing in media too. Like I don't know if you've seen the movie Roma, the Alfonso
I love
Cuarón
that
Roma.
black and white.
Yeah.
Gorgeous film.
And like that was a big thing too because I remember when that main actress was like a native like Mexican actor,
Mhm.
and like you can tell like a lot of like the director himself, like Alfonso Cuarón, it's like it's like a Spanish Mexican, and he's like there you can see the difference between the way that Spanish Mexicans are treated and the way that native Mexicans are treated, and it's such a big difference.
And I don't want to get into the politics of it, but the whole caste system or the whole I call it the closer to the sun complex.
Mm.
I mean, I've seen that in all cultures. I was in Japan for a few months, and the difference between Japanese, Filipino, and Okinawans.
Huge difference.
It was funny because I went there, and I almost felt homesick.
Yeah.
Because they hated each other here. Too. I was like, oh, you
Yeah,
got racism here too?
I'm telling you, as an Asian, I don't want to like air out all of Asia's but colorism in Asia
Uh-huh.
is insane,
Mm.
like insanity. Like the
Oh.
way that East Asians look at like Southeast Asians as like it's, and the way that colorism works in Asia is nuts. It's not right. It's just it doesn't make any sense.
I mean,
but
and the funny thing is, not in a condoning way, but I was learning about the history of the colorism, and that's why I call it my closer to the sun theory, where if you were privileged and you were
yes,
in,
you were out of the
indoors,
sun.
out of the
Yeah,
sun,
if you were, that's why that's
if you were
like
working.
in Asia. So like in Asia,
Mhm.
because I'm Chinese, I'm East Asian, but I like have tanner skin, and like I guess I look more Southeast Asian. I don't know, but like in terms of like colorism, so like it does stem from that. So like people who were wealthy, had lighter skin because they could stay out of the sun. They had the privilege of staying out of the sun, where like workers, people who worked out in the fields, were very dark, so then they were considered very poor. So like in Asia, that's kind of how it was seen. So like obviously all of that like translates over like generations, So there's like in terms of beauty standards, like you have like Asian, like there's a lot of, I don't want like again like I feel bad airing everything out, but like a lot of Asian women like in general like they like. I don't want to say they bleach their skin, but they probably do. They do, but like they use like whitening creams, like skin creams to make themselves whiter.
Parasols, and gloves, because you don't want get sun on you.
But it's like for generations, it's like to make their skin very pale, like makeup and like creams and stuff to make themselves paler, and I'm like, that's insane. Like, it's crazy.
What's so funny is it's I saw it there, but also in like Dominican Republic, Cuba. All these places, it's all...
Well, there's, not to get into politics, but, like, I feel like, the closer you, especially, the closer you are to, like, paler skin, the closer you are to, like, whiteness, the closer you are to, like, privilege, and then there's, like, a whole, it's a whole thing that leads to another thing,
yes,
so...
And you're 100% right, and I do want to pull up...
sorry, like, we're just talking about social political things
I will go deep in on that, and I got a whole...
So will I.
Yes. One of the actress that played Namora, because I don't think she got enough screen time, and also
was she the one the woman?
Yes.
Yeah, she was so cool.
She was with Chuma.
I wish there was more of her. She was so cool. I remember the first thing when she comes out of when they're on the ship, when they're attacking the ship in the beginning.
Yes.
She comes out. I was like, what is she about to do? What is she about to do? Well, I was like, she was so cool.
And we're looking right now. There's this picture of her, and she has the headdress. Yeah, I mean that.
Which I thought it was funny because I remember watching this, and I like saw the trailers, but I like thought I wasn't sure if they were Native American or if they were like and then they were like, oh, we're Mayan, and I was like, oh, okay, like.
But they were all on the same continent, so there was like. They're cousins at least.
Yeah, they're indigenous. They're native. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, and if you're from the land, you're going to use, what's on the land, animals and stuff. It was not like an industrialized, like because the conquistador stuff had armor from smelting, yada yada. But I love the headdress they had because his had like a.
I was like again, like the costuming for this movie was like insane. It was so good
and done with such care.
Yeah.
Like I want this to say something, not throw this on them and kick this out there. So they you can tell somebody did their research and really had an affinity for what they were putting on the screen.
Yeah. But I will say though, some of it was funny because like some of them like the Dora Milaje, like the blue costume that Shuri had made with that one, and then it was funny because Riri's like Iron Man suit at the end, it kind of bordered on like kind of anime. It kind of bordered on anime a little bit.
I think those were really from the comic books because now I the only reason I'm saying that is because I don't know but I know that is a comic book character of the whatever like the Midnight Flyer or whatever Shuri called it when she made it. That's from the comic. So I think that's literally what it looks like drawn in a comic book, which explains why it's so out of place, because that does not look African to me on any level.
Yeah, no.
And also to your point about the Ironheart outfit.
The Iron Man, the one that she makes looked very much kind of like
it looked like Robotech.
Yeah. Like she was about to like what is it, like Astro Boy, Astro Boy or something like. I was like, very anime-ish.
It was, but again, I'll tell you this: I saw a comic drawing in it.
It looks similar to that.
I think what's funny is, not funny, but I think because I think what might have happened is they just didn't really have an opinion on it. So they just literally said, what's it look like?
Yeah.
Here it is. So
there it is.
And because it was not like a primary character for them, they weren't really invested in doing an interpretation. They just said, okay, give us the concept art, and they just did it. They were like, here's your Iron Man. Yeah. So,
but it was cool. It was cool seeing her in like that. It was the same exact Iron Man face that Robert Downey Jr. does. And I was like, she's making her money because all she has to do is stand in the green screen, and she's making her money.
Yes. And I liked their Brio, the AI.
Oh, it was funny because it was just like an Alexa. It was an Alexa, but like for the Wakandans. Yes. So I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, and Brio is that's definitely an African thing. Like I forget the definition of it fully, but when they called it Griot. Oh, Griot, that's their Jarvis. But it's it's and I like how Angela Bassett went to Shuri's lab and he's like, "Are you there?" Just because she's not, but she did have tech skills.
Oh yeah.
Because remember when she was defending them and she was up there doing the Minority Report, hand ballet.
I'm sure
stuff.
she had to, as the Queen of Wakanda.
But again, they're all super advanced anyway.
Absolutely.
So
I feel like it's ingrained in and it's ingrained in I'm sure their schooling and stuff. But I'm sure Shuri is she's the top person. So. But
remember, when they were going undercover at MIT, Denai Guerrero was like, yeah, this would have been one of our our middle schools.
Yeah. The education, one of our elementary schools, the stuff that they're learning here.
Yeah, exactly. What was that an iPhone? Oh, how basic.
I love when she says that, in the first movie when she sees guns, she's like, oh, primitive.
Yeah, I did love Denai's.
She's just, I love, I don't know if you watched Walking Dead. I was like,
Michonne,
I was so sad when she left the show. I loved her in that show, and then I feel and with seeing her in this, just seeing her she has so much presence and so much there's just so much charisma. And then you know who else was in the movie we haven't talked about yet? Michaela Cole. Michaela Cole, who played, she was the one with Spears.
Yes. Now what's she from? Because I
she is she was in Chewing Gum and she was in. I May Destroy You. She does a lot of her own writing, producing for TV shows. So the Chewing Gum was a Netflix show that she did. It was a Netflix comedy. Mm-hmm. And then I May Destroy You was this kind of autobiographical drama thing that she did for HBO.
I think I may have seen an interview about that. Because I remember her face, but I couldn't picture where she was from. She's
she's a big she kind of just does her own writing, her own directing stuff. But she's so talented. She's insanely talented. I remember seeing her in the trailer and I was like, I think I'm Michaela Cole. It's what?
Well, and you could tell. You know who else I thought I saw? And it was a very small part. I think he said one line, but he was an MMA fighter. He's an African-born MMA fighter.
What's he in?
He was just one of the Mbaku's tribe.
Yeah.
And he was in the hall when they were having, I think, the debate about whether or not to
attack.
No, to disband
Okoye. Yeah.
And they were like, well, she went against her own husband, to save Wakanda.
Yeah.
So, but he was in it, and it kills me because there was this big thing in UFC. There were these two fighters, and they were the epitome of, the alt-right versus immigration in America. Because he's an immigrant, and the other guy was throwing a lot of, shade at him and his country and his culture. And this immigrant broke his jaw in that fight. And, I don't like seeing anybody hurt. But I wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I wasn't that sad about it. You were kind of ooh.
I slept very well that night.
You were man, that was the thing that happened, for sure.
Exactly. But he played a role in that. It's small role, but I looked and it's
that's that guy.
Yep. So you can tell that they're kind of saying, come on in.
Yeah.
Come on, let's do this.
Let's do it. Just might as well just jump in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think that's why they also brought her in because they were like, "We're a fan of yours. We like you.
Yeah.
And we want you to be a part of this."
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, huge Michaela Cole fan. She was not in it as much as I thought she was going to be. And then there was that other actress, the one that she was in the first movie. I never know her name. Is it her?
Oh no! Yeah, I know who you're talking about. She is top.
She's in Dora Milaje.
Yes. Yeah.
What's her name? Her.
Florence.
Kasumba.
Yes.
Her. She's I
like it. I haven't seen her anything but the Dora Milaje.
Are you sure?
I mean,
in
not that I
Black
know.
Panther. Wait, hold on. I think that's her character.
Yeah, that's her character. See, that's okay. Here we go.
I remember seeing her in it was Civil War. Hold on.
What?
She
was in Walking Dead.
No, that was Denai. I don't know that. Falcon Winter Soldier, I remember her in that. But that's Marvel. She's just a Marvel. The Lion King voice. I don't really think she's been in anything else really.
Yeah. No.
Wonder
Woman.
But I'm sure it was a cameo. Yeah. I remember her in Civil War and the scene. It's when they introduced Black Panther and she's his bodyguard. And she goes up against Black Widow, and I was like, And I was
That's
like, man.
something I would like to see.
Yeah.
As entertaining as that would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, just that presence.
Insane presence. Absolutely.
That presence.
She's like, I'm sure she's like, she must be like a professional model or something. Because like, for sure, like the presence that she has, incredible.
Okay, born in Kampala, Uganda. She was German, actually. Yeah, because I saw she was in a lot of German films.
Yeah.
Living in Berlin. You know, she's best known for her work in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Captain America Civil War, yada yada. Yeah, so that's probably what she's probably just this model, German model that
they were like, let's make it happen.
Yeah, she kills it too.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, and again, I love how they're just so on their game. It's the bridge fight scene with Tuma and Denai. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I love how outnumbered.
Yeah, she is.
And she's
just like, let me throw this. She's like, I'm gonna kill all of you.
She takes off her jacket like it's time to go to work because she was like, get out of here and I will kill all of you or something like that.
She would have done it if they didn't regenerate. What was that about?
I don't know if they were regenerating or if they were just really, because I mean, you're living thousands of feet under the sea.
Yeah.
She probably was just denser and a lot more, durable.
Yeah, I was like wondering that because they don't really explain that how they she literally did kill shots on them and then they just stood back up and I was like.
But I think because they all technically have the herb, in them.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're
all kind of superhuman beings. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just which kind of is cool because that takes away that whole God mode where. Nothing can hurt you, but it is kind of weak. And that's the thing. I mean, I wasn't crazy about when they first, when the French military went to try and get the
vibranium.
Yeah, and they showed up with stun weapons instead of
I think that
lethal weapons.
No, but I think that was the point that they were making.
To capture them
instead of kill them.
Yeah,
because they were trying to make a point. They were like, this is a warning that we will kill you next time if you try this again.
Yeah, they took them prisoners so there would be proof. And they couldn't deny that they were there. Yeah. That makes sense.
That's that's kind of what I saw it as. Instead of being like, we're just gonna kill them off, we're gonna be usually they came in with weapons to kill and we stopped them with stun guns.
And we were able to able to disarm your SEAL Team 6 kind of with, basically tasers.
Exactly.
So, and again, I have on our website, and I usually keep a certain category that we can just quick run through and say our thoughts on. So, direction. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Do you have to rate it, or can we just say good, bad?
Oh, good, bad. Yeah.
Direction was very good.
We'll call it binge or cringe.
Binge for sure.
There you go.
Binge for sure. I think again, direction. I think it was better than the first movie. I think there's more cohesive than the first movie was. But again, I love the first movie. I'm not hating on it at all. But I think there was a lot more. I think they learned a lot from what they did in the first one, and they were we're gonna make the second one. We're gonna make a more put together movie.
100%.
Yeah.
That's literally what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
The first one was not bad, but they
were juggling so many ideas. I think.
And it's polished. It's the cinematography was better. That's
right. That's the word I would use for it. I feel like the second movie was more polished than the first one. It's not necessary, but I still think maybe I just need to rewatch the second one. But I still think the first one because. There was just so much. There was so much that they were trying to say, to put into that movie. Just you know what I mean. And it was the first movie that I saw going to the first one, but most Marvel movies in general, they don't really deal with any kind of real issues. It's more this is Ant-Man's got to deal with whoever is in the quantum realm. It's stuff that's kind of nerdy, whatever stuff.
Well, it's super villains, not real problems.
Yeah, exactly. But Black Panther was the first movie that I saw from Marvel that was this is a real thing, a real problem in the real world.
Yes.
And then we're gonna throw a superhero take on it. You know what I mean? And that was to me very impressive that they did that. So
Marvel. I'll give Marvel credit for it because I think it's because they've been cranking out bangers left and right. That they can afford to look at other things than the blue light in the sky with the swirling trash.
Yeah.
Because DC has not really done anything that speaks to anything real, with the exception of maybe Joker, where it's about a mental illness and society. I mean, it's not like a commentary, but it was in that vein.
Yeah.
Hey, we have mentally ill people that will do crazy things.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So for direction, we're both binge on that.
Binge for sure.
Yes. Now casting.
Binge. Absolutely
Yes.
incredible casting. It's all just every single person was a talent. Every single one, and even like the guy that played Namor. Like I've never seen him in anything else.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's been in something else, but I've never really seen him in anything else.
Definitely not a household name in the States.
No, definitely. Maybe in some other, maybe in other media, but like maybe not in the U.S.
And you know what? I loved hearing the language. Now,
yes, that was a point I was going to make too. Yeah,
yes, I mean,
because that was my thing about. You know what? That was my thing about Black Adam.
He was in Narcos.
Oh, was he? You know what? Narcos Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah.
But here, you're right. I was gonna make a mention of that. I forgot. But that was one of my issues with Black Adam is that they take that movie takes place in the Middle East, and I wish they had made more of a use of speaking Arabic because Arabic's like one of my favorite languages. I think it's the coolest language ever. But like I wish they could have utilized that more, like speaking Arabic, because like that's the country that they're not speaking English, they're speaking Arabic. So like in this movie, I love that they spoke there's a bunch of native languages. You know what I mean? And like I love seeing that in movies anyways, and it's so important to see that.
And also we're talking about parallels. We forgot about this. The greeting. The greeting. It's not.
Which is funny because I was like,
it's not a Kamehameha.
I was literally going to be like, it's like the Dragon Ball Z. I was like, all right, that's what we're doing. All right.
That's a pretty cool one. But I love because I think I have seen that in some indigenous art or portrayals.
Really?
I swear that looks familiar, and not in a Goku kind of way, but it just the that yes. I've seen that pose before.
Yeah.
And of course, Black Panther has the armed cross salute. So both of them had that, and again that similarity of we're the same.
Yeah.
We're just different experience, or we're in the same situation. We're just different backgrounds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So direction, casting,
absolutely, performances, yeah.
I mean, again, Letitia Wright. First of all, just from go when she's having that emotional, pain from T'Challa's passing, and the arc, and you see, and she's just able to carry this entire franchise into the future on her shoulders, and even I'll tell you this, I got goosebumps at least 5 times from certain scenes. When she created her own Black Panther outfit with the dots.
You know what was funny? I want to make a mention is that so at that point she's still very angry and very bitter, and it was funny because she makes the Black Panther. She has the Black Panther the uniform, and she goes and looks at. I guess it's her brothers, the black one.
I think it was her father's and her brothers.
And her brothers.
Yes.
She looks at the black. She looks at the Black Panther masks, the all black ones, and then instead of she's looking at them, and then she goes and instead chooses the one that's black and gold. But if you remember from the first movie, black and gold is the color of Killmonger.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, she's going the Killmonger route. She's going the black and gold helmet.
That was you're 100% right. Not only did she do the black and gold, she also had the funeral dots that she had from the funeral.
Yeah. She was ready to go. She was angry, and I'm glad that she had that. I'm glad. I love when characters have that moment of anger, true anger.
And yeah, it was definitely she was, and M'Baku said the same thing because M'Baku saw it. He was like,
you need that.
He was like, first of all, he understood the consequences of war.
Yeah.
And he said, first of all, your brother told me to give you counsel, and I don't want that for you. And it was also beautiful where she's like, my mother's death doesn't warrant war, and M'Baku's like, of course it does.
Yeah.
Of course she does.
Yeah.
Because he felt her pain.
Yeah. He understands that. Of course, the death of the queen. Of course that warrants war. But he's like, that's not who you are. That's not what your mother would want for you.
And the fact that he was seen as a god. If you kill him, that's just a never-ending war because you've taken away their identity. You've taken the reins off, so that's all they have to live for now. They don't have a god; they just have an enemy. And also, he was like, "I don't want that for my people." I don't want my people to be having to fight a war based on one decision I made.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And I want to say also at the very end, like after they have that kind of a reconciliation between the two countries, like that scene when the woman comes up to her and she goes, "Why did you do that?" And he's like, "One day he's like everybody will attack Wakanda and Wakanda will be an ally. Like someone Wakanda will need us as an ally, something like that." It seemed almost like there was still something like,
oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Oh, no,
it seemed like there was like there was still a little something like not really like.
Oh yeah,
you know?
I think. And this is the one thing, and this might go to the next thing I was going to talk about is the screenplay.
Yeah.
But to that point, I was a little thrown by how he yields when his troop was literally kicking their behind. Yeah. I mean, because they were on the boat corner.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, "I'll let your people live." It's like, is there another fight? Is there
another thing that's going on? But I think it was more about like they didn't really know what was going on.
Exactly.
But like I think it was like they were about to kill him, like and he was their head, and they were like, you know what I mean? She was about to kill him for sure.
And we're back. So, let's see. We talked about direction. We talked about casting, performance, screenplay is where, again, love it all. But I had, there were some choices that I was, that kind of threw me. And again, maybe I need to watch it again and again to, because there was a lot of stuff going on. But like I mentioned, the one thing that did kind of throw me was him yielding.
Even though they were winning?
Yeah, but again, I mean, it seemed more... Because again, if he's living for his people, and his people are victorious, why would he yield?
I think that it was more about, like...
the future and how they can have a...
I think it was the fact that he was going to die.
Yeah.
Because they were winning, but he was not winning. And I think that it was, like... It was also a moment of, like, being, like... Seeing her, and then her seeing him, and realizing that they're the same... They're in the same position. They are the same person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I think in that moment, realizing that like this person has a lot of anger. Like he had a lot of anger. She had a lot of anger. Like the loss of his him dealing with the loss of his mother, her dealing with the loss of her mother. Like and all of these things like them. And then just like that in that moment, I think he realized. And again, like in the future, he was like, we might be winning now, but in the future, we'll be winning. And like, at what cost? Like at what cost to my people? It's not worth it, especially when he realizes that they are the same. Like she is not the enemy. Like she is as much the enemy as we are.
And he even said that she has no allies, and he has no allies.
Yeah.
So
maybe it can be.
I'm sure he's playing chess.
Yeah.
And he's thinking this will be advantageous just to stand back now and see how this plays out. And, I did like where she says, revenge just consumed me. Because that's what T'Challa said in Civil War.
When his father dies. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I'm done with the letting it consume. She's like, it's consuming us. We don't need to let it consume our people. And again, a lot of callbacks. That,
there's a lot, and I think that's great because I thought the first movie had a lot of really great things that they did, and the second movie took all the good aspects of that, and I enjoyed that.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad that Ryan Coogler came back to direct it. Like, right now we're talking about screenplay, but I'm glad he came back to direct it because he had so much love and care for the first movie, and I think that he was kind of like, okay, like what did we do right in the first movie? What did we do wrong in the first movie? And let's make something cool.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's make something cooler. And
that's how you can tell. Like you said, it's not a cash grab when they're trying to say something well.
And there's no way that I feel like Black Panther would ever be a cash grab. I was like, there's no way you can have a character like that with that much kind of like impact just on everybody, like, you know what I mean? And I feel like there's no way that you could just have that character or have that story be a cash grab.
True.
Like, you have to have a lot of heart. You have to put that in that movie for people to really care about it.
You have to have something to say. Yeah. It's not just Batman without a cape.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just, you know. And that's like I feel like I keep like shitting on Ant-Man, but just like Ant-Man running around in the quantum realm, like
it's very smart.
Love Ant-Man, love Paul Rudd.
Yes,
he's awesome.
The never aging Paul Rudd.
Yes.
Yeah. Cinematography.
But nothing like outstanding. Like it's definitely not bad, but like nothing outstanding. But like it was fun. Yeah.
I liked it. But again, we're going back to the improving upon the original. I mean, just technically, I thought that they advanced a lot further than they were, because there was a lot of, let's just say, wonky blue screenery in the first one.
You're right. When I actually think about that now, you are right, because there's that one scene that is like ingrained in my mind. It's that scene where T'Challa and Nakia are talking. And they're sitting on the mountain, the cliff of the mountain.
Yeah.
And then it's like the screen, and it's like the background, but I'm like, that's a fake background.
Yes.
And then there's another moment. Now that you're saying this, it's like all coming back.
Now you can't unsee it. Yeah.
I can't unsee it now. It's a scene, and it's such like a like. It always like draws me out of the scene, but it's such an emotional scene. It's a scene when he's talking to his father, and like in the afterlife.
Yes.
When he drinks the thing, and then he gets like buried in the thing, and then he's like talking to his father. And it's all the trees and the ancestors and stuff, but you can tell that it's fake, and it like draws me out of that, and it draws me out of that scene, like just seeing the green screen background, and I'm like, man, like it's such a like Chadwick is like acting, like he's giving it his all, and then there's just like a green screen in the background.
The effects don't, they distract. Yeah,
and they distract from the scene, and I was kind of like, but I mean, like, forgiven because like it's a good movie, but like,
true, but you know, I think technically they missed the mark slightly in those parts, but like, I think another thing that I like is you can tell they went to locations on this one, more so than they did with the original one. Because, I mean, I'm sure they had scenes in Africa, but I don't think they were able to shoot like a lot of it there. And you could tell that they went to Haiti and they went to Mexico. And because especially the beach scene, where the Queen Mother's on the beach. And I remember seeing it in the trailer, and I was like, oh, they're going places with this. And it was just so beautiful. And also, I love that dialogue between Namor and the Queen, not only on the riverbank, but also when she went to Mexico to draw him out. And then it turns out that was her ruse, so they could kidnap the scientist back.
They could bring Shuri back in the scientist.
Yeah, but I mean, the whole that dialogue, because she knew he was dangerous, and the Queen Mother again, her loyalty was to her people. So she didn't have time to worry about people's feelings or what their intentions were. It was like, are you a threat or are you not a threat? And I love, Angela Bassett just killed it.
Yeah,
she was so regal. And
always.
Exactly. And again, in the trailer that gave me goosebumps when she says, I've lost everything. Haven't I given enough?
Yeah.
Just goosebumps.
Yeah.
And even the one, like they were on the Mexican beach, where she called him out, and he goes up to her and says, if you give me up, I'm going to go after Wakanda first, and I'll kill everybody, and I'll kill you. And I want to go back. We were talking about the language, and first of all, it's such a beautiful sounding language. But when he speaks it, and I know nothing of the language, but it's just refreshing to hear an actual language, not just Hollywood version of it, and making basically an entire because it's not Atlantis, it's not Aquaman's home. This is its own.
Yeah, I was thinking, I was comparing it to there's definitely scenes where like they're in the water for the first time, and I was like comparing it to Aquaman for like a second, and I was like, what's better than Aquaman?
I love this so much more.
But Aquaman had a lot of cool moments, but like some of those underwater scenes, I'm like, man.
Well, again, the effects, when the effects detract, but I love the underwater scenes here. I mean, some of them, and you could tell there were actual like water scenes where
they were underwater.
Yeah,
yes,
and I'm like, that's I don't know insurance how they pay for that, but okay, so cinematography, definitely we agree it progressed beyond the original.
First one, for sure. definitely. And I think that goes into like effects, like
Mhm.
because
Yes.
the effects were better in this one for
Yes.
sure, but like also goes into the fact that it came out later, more money, more technology.
Exactly. Exactly. And you're growing with and here's one thing I need to point out: Ryan Coogler, at his heart, is an indie director. And I know they've snatched up indie or comedic
They have been
directors
snatching up a lot of indie directors,
and just throw them into this.
But some of them kind of flop. I'm not gonna lie. Like Chloe Zhao. Nomadland was wonderful movie, but Eternals, I don't know what was happening.
Well, okay, let's talk a little Eternals.
Okay.
I mean, what were your thoughts on? I mean,
it was mid. It was not good. It was not like the worst thing I've ever seen, but it was just kind of boring. You know what I mean?
I think it's hard to have a vested interest in any characters you just meet, and you're dividing up the stories amongst all of them.
It's always hard to make a movie where you're introducing a big group of characters.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It's
always hard.
Yes.
And there's some movies do it well, some movies don't do it well. I feel like some movies, which was the issue with like the Justice League movies, which like DC, because like everybody knows Justice League,
and
everybody knows Batman, everybody knows, and I was like, everybody knows Batman, everybody knows like Superman, but like when you're introducing like Batman and Superman with like certain actors, with like new actors and a new kind of interpretation of something, like it's hard to just kind of throw those characters in there and be like, everybody's gonna love them. Like it doesn't work like that, you know.
And it's like you're saying with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, people know the lore.
Yeah.
They know the history. So now it's just like, I wonder how they're going to interpret it. So you already have an understanding, but you don't want to have to learn the backstory of all these different characters and the motivations.
That was really like the selling point of Marvel. Like the reason I call it like the Marvel formula, which I want to actually get into this kind of like I want to get into this kind of trope of like Hollywood, where I've noticed that Hollywood always kind of like they kind of latch themselves onto like a trend. Like every like decade or so, they latch onto a trend that's popular. So like back when Harry Potter came out, it was the YA. It was like the trend of the big YA like whatever. But it wasn't that. It was just like it was the YA franchise, and then the last two movies were two-parters. The Harry Potter did it first. They did part one and then part two, and then every movie after that did it. Hunger Games, it was Twilight did part one and part two, and then Hunger Games did part one and part two, and then it was one of those things like the Hobbit movies. They split into three movies for whatever reason, and it was that kind of thing where like Hollywood was really gravitating towards that because that's what was making a lot of money.
Right. And
then it was like there's just like patterns like every like decade or so, and then like Marvel came out, and like the Marvel kind of formula where it was like you took one character, you gave them their own movie, like nobody knew what was going on. Like Iron Man came out, Captain America came out, Thor came out, like one at a time. Nobody really knew where it was going until Avengers came out. People lost their minds. You know what I mean? And it was like characters that like it wasn't like Batman and Superman. It was like Iron Man and Captain America. Like who cared about those characters? You know, like for the most, like compare it to Batman and Superman. Like at the time.
I have a theory. A binge theory. And it goes to exactly what you're saying. And mine, I always look at it kind of like from the corporate side. And it's essentially that when you talk about Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, you have
so many variations.
But also you have so many opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And so, let's say you're taking this film to the executives or the producer and say, hey, I want to make a Superman movie. They already have an idea of what they want
Superman's going to be, yeah.
But you say, hey, I want to make an Iron Man movie.
They're like,
who?
Who's Iron Man?
And they said, well, it's this guy. And how about we get Robert Downey Jr.? The guy from Rehab?
Yeah. The guy who got out of rehab that, burned out in, the 80s? Yeah, let's just throw him in there.
So, nobody will tell you what to do with Iron Man.
Yeah.
Because nobody cares.
Yeah.
So, you get under the wire. You're just like,
if it's a hit, it's a hit. If it's not a hit, then whatever.
Yeah, nobody has, these grandiose ideas about Iron Man. They're not saying, well, from what I remember, Tony Stark was a womanizer, playboy, philanthropist, nobody cares because nobody knows. So nobody's in your way or telling you what to do. And that's how they got in with Iron Man. And then they said, we'll do Thor.
Yeah.
What's
Thor? But I just want to know how early on they realized that they were going to do Marvel Cinematic Universe
Well,
because it's basically become franchise now. But like in the beginning, like you kind of you when you saw it like happening, you kind of were just like, oh, like this, like seeing it progress was a very interesting thing, you know. And then having it be like, okay, Avengers, and then they're setting up Thanos. They set up Thanos early, 10 years earlier than you know. It was essentially a 10-year payoff.
On FX, they have like this Marvel, the whole chain just running on a loop, I think. Because I was watching earlier today, and they were showing the Avengers, and you know
in the post-credits scene.
The beginning of Avengers, because this is when Loki came to New York, so he was talking to Thanos, and it was a CG Thanos, not played by Josh Brolin, but they had him.
They had him early on, and I was like thinking about it. I was like, how far in advance did they plan like this universe?
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
and I was like, but I was like, that's my thing. But that was my thing because like Hollywood realized how much money that Marvel was making off this. So then the cinematic universe became a thing. Like everybody wanted to do the cinematic universe. The fucking monster cinematic universe.
Oh, that crashed and
Conjuring.
That crashed.
I know, but then like DC tried to do it. Like everybody tried to do it after that.
And DC, here's the thing, and this is why DC's failed, and they're never going to be able to recover from it, is because, and to your point about the trends, they saw
a trend and they immediately were like, oh, we're jumping on that.
They did the cliff notes. They said, oh, Avengers, we have like a team, right?
Yeah.
Let's make a team movie. They said, well, no, they introduced the characters, people had a vested interest, and then they all came together like a super group. Yeah. You just want to go right to the group.
You want to, right, you know? Because it was, I think they had done, what did they had like one or two, they'd done Superman, and they had done somebody, and then all of a sudden it was Justice League.
Yeah.
Like they did Wonder Woman, and then suddenly it was Justice League.
And again, Wonder Woman could have been awesome. It started off awesome.
Did you, thoughts on Wonder Woman? Like Wonder Woman?
I liked the beginning of it. I like, I liked the premise that this was, an empowered woman, and I liked, the culture of, the Amazonian culture and how they, kind of had their own thing going on, all up until the third act when it was just a CG,
mess.
With whirling garbage and this.
I feel the same way. I am a big Wonder Woman. I'm a big fan of the first one. The second Wonder Woman.
Oh no.
Second Wonder Woman trash.
The
first
80s
Wonder Woman.
one?
No. The Gal Gadot, like Wonder Woman 1, Wonder Woman 2, like those.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The second one was the 80s one.
Yeah, the 80s
1984.
Yeah. I hated that version. I hated that.
That was some of that was shot at the Landmark.
Yeah. I knew people who were extras in that. But it was funny because the second one I hated, but the first one, I totally agree with you. I think everybody agrees that the third act was a complete mess. Mm-hmm. But I think because there was so much heart, there was so much heart in that character, and there was so much heart in that story that leading all the way up until that third act, I think because the first two acts were so strong, it kind of saves the movie. Yeah. If it was just bad and then the third act happened, I'd be garbage. But I think because the first two acts were so strong, and I felt so invested in this character, so invested in her her honesty, her integrity, the story, you know what I mean? The idea of her seeing war for the first time and all this stuff. The first two acts were just so solid that the third act being garbage, that kind of was kind of I was kind of whatever. You know what I mean? I still as an overall movie, I still really enjoyed it.
I'll say this: I loved Wonder Woman for what it was because it was like nothing I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
So I give points for originality, and I know the story's not original, but seeing that on film was I thought a huge breakthrough.
Yeah.
I like Gal Gadot.
Yeah.
When they pay me to make movies, it'll be a different thing. But I would have really liked her portrayal of Wonder Woman to have been, in my mind, Wonder Woman is kind of like an elitist, because she's a princess and she's a warrior princess that has not seen men. So the only thing that I found a little disappointing was when she came to the world of man, and men are literally shoving her out of the room, saying, let the big boys handle this. Yeah. And again, she's 1,000 times stronger than them, but yet they're still able to mansplain and kind of just shove her aside.
I think it has to do with the fact that this is a brand new world to her. So she doesn't understand when men are kind of oh, you need to get out of the room. She's like, what? What's going on? She's also, it's her understanding man, the idea of misogyny or whatever that goes into that era, and then also discovering it. It's that combined with discovering a completely new world. She she's also trying to like figure out what the heck is going on, like the culture of what's going on. You get what I mean? It's a combination of both of those things.
And I can get that. I guess the way I would have, in my mind, how I perceive Wonder Woman as almost like a
badass.
Well, not so much a badass, definitely, but almost like everybody is beneath her. Almost.
Yeah.
And,
really?
Because to me, it's like she's a warrior, a warrior princess, and everybody else is not. So,
I feel like I don't know. I feel like if they had done that in that movie, I feel like she wouldn't have been as relatable.
She definitely wouldn't have been as likable, and because again, the way they did it is more marketable and a better, because you would appreciate her more. I think the only person that can come off as kind of a jerk and still play it is Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Because he was a jerk right off the
bat. And I'm like still not like we're gonna go into Marvel stuff now, but like still not a huge. I'm still not a huge Iron Man fan. I was never a big Iron Man fan. I'm not gonna lie. Team Iron Man, Team Captain America. I was always Team Captain America because sorry to Iron Man. He was wrong in Civil War. So it's controversial now, but wait, hold on. Who was right? Iron Man or Captain America Civil War? Go.
That is an excellent question. This is based on the Sokovia Accords, where superheroes would have to give their identity and also sign paperwork saying that they would not partake in any superheroism unless the government sanctioned it.
Government agreed on it.
Yes.
And, Iron Man was for it. Captain America was against it.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, Captain America was right.
Yep. See, that's the hot take, I guess.
Is that like,
that's your hot take?
That's what's your hot take?
I would say.
Don't you say it?
well, okay, don't get me wrong. I definitely see. I like Romanoff. I like Black Widow's take on it.
Hers was kind of the in between. Like
hers was like
she was just trying to she was trying to mediate the situation.
Well, I remember one thing she said that again. I mean, two things she said. First thing she said, "I'm Russian. We tend not to get weepy when regimes change." And the second she said, "I'm reading the terrain." Yeah. It's not like I'm dying on the hill. It's like, well, let's just get through this.
At the end of the day, she was the one that was right because, again, at the end of the day, you have to kind of read between the lines of like you have to be that. And she's always Black Widow's always been the great character in like everything, you know, which is great. And I also really like speaking of Black Widow, like I've always liked her more in the Russo movies. Like I liked her more her portrayal. I like the portrayal of Black Widow more when the Russo brothers had her. So in Winter Soldier, Civil War,
Winter Soldier,
Infinity War, like her character in that just seems there was so much more depth to her than like some of the other earlier Black Widow. Like I hated her.
And Favreau.
I know Favreau one, but like her character under Joss Whedon, hated that.
Well, I'm thinking, did Favreau? No, she was introduced in the
Iron Man
Whedon.
2.
Yeah,
she was Iron Man 2. No, Iron Man 2, which was Favreau.
Okay,
and then she was introduced, and then Avengers 1 and Avengers 2 was Joss Whedon, and I just didn't like the way that he portrayed her character at all. But I liked her more under the Russo brothers. But like because I felt like they really understood that she had a lot of depth and a lot of trauma that she was hiding from people. I liked how she was like lightly discussing the Red Room. Yes, exactly. And like I again, like my personal favorite Marvel movies still to this day is still Winter Soldier. And I think that her portrayal is like the first time you really see her as like a person more than just like she's the woman of the team. That's like she had this. You could see like the depth in her character in that. That's why I really like that. But like again, like back to like Civil War. At the end of the day, she was right. But we are talking about Captain America versus Iron Man and Captain.
The thing that made that so good, the Team Iron Man, Team Captain America. Yeah. Is Captain America was so pious and righteous, the righteous soldier, always on the side of what is in his mind morally right. Yeah. Where Robert Downey Jr. is like,
this is what feels right. But that's my thing. My thing has always been like, what makes to me because I'm the type of person that will rationalize everything. I was like, to me, it makes more sense to like rationalize something than to like go based on what you feel. Because at the end of the day, when you watch that movie, at the end of the day. Iron Man realizes that he was wrong. Like in the end of the movie when he realizes that Wanda gets captured, like Hawkeye and Ant-Man both get captured, and like basically like Wanda basically gets stripped of her powers. Like she gets like basically like she's like in prison, like she can't do anything. Yeah. And he sees her and he realizes like in his mind he's like, oh, I was wrong.
Well, that's and I'm not going to go into X-Men, but I just recently because I said Fox was showing all the whole universe. They were showing. It was the X-Men where they were on Alcatraz. I forget which one that was.
Second one,
Juggernaut.
my favorite one.
The
third one?
Yeah, I think it was third
Last
with Juggernaut, Last Stand. And they were weaponizing the cure.
Yeah.
And Magneto said, trust me, it always starts with talks.
Yeah.
But eventually they knock on your door.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And to your point, when Robert Downey saw that, wow, they're rounding people up.
Yeah, he was like, oh, I made a mistake.
Exactly.
Which is why Captain America was like, he's like this, my favorite thing also is that like when in that scene when Iron Man is like telling them about like this thing, Captain America's just sitting there reading it. Like he's literally page by page reading the entire thing, and I was like, he knows what's up, and he reads it. He reads the whole thing, and he goes, "This is a bad idea."
Well, and you got to remember, Captain America was around for Hitler,
exactly.
So he knows what it's about to be on a list and to basically, give yourself up to people.
Yeah, and
so he's seen firsthand what that takes. Just like in Avengers 1, where Loki shows up and everybody kneels.
Yeah.
And you can tell one of I don't know if he's a survivor, but he definitely knew what Hitler did. And, and he stood up, and Loki said, you kneel because
like,
I'm not kneeling to people like you. He's like,
yeah.
There is nobody like me. He goes, there's always somebody like you.
Yeah.
And so it's that point of reference. Captain America knew what Tony Stark didn't.
Yeah.
Because Tony Stark doesn't, have that history.
Well, yeah, and then I'm just, and I think that he there was a big change between because he went into the war wanting to do the right, basically being I hate Nazis, I want to do the right thing. You know what I mean? I don't want to kill. He literally was I don't want to kill anybody. I just want to do the right thing.
Well, if you think about it, Tony Stark was an arms dealer. Captain America was a patriot. Yeah. So those are two totally different sides of the same coin.
And also, it wasn't. And the reason I like Captain America a lot is because I always felt like Captain America's motives weren't necessarily because he ends up becoming a fugitive, to the government.
Right.
He's Captain America. He's supposed to be the poster boy of American patriotism. But then my thing about Captain America, the reason I liked him as a character, especially in the Russo versions of it, especially in Winter Soldier, Civil War, was that his loyalty wasn't to the country. His loyalty was to the American people. His loyalty was always to the people of the country, not the country itself. If the country is going bad, he's going to be you're wrong. That's why he essentially became a war criminal. Because he was what the government is doing is wrong, and I'm not going to stand for that.
Well, and it was funny because I remember after, I think it was probably Avengers where he came out of freezing and they were just, and he said, we won the war, but nobody told me what we lost.
Yeah.
So he saw that the ideals that he had were antiquated based on America and what it was doing now.
Exactly, and that goes into Winter Soldier, where he's he's his whole life has just been him. He's in the military, he's a soldier, and then he comes back, and then the world is different than and then he realizes the government. He's doing all he starts off he's doing all these things for the government, and realizing that they're not doing the right thing. And then he's kind of what's his entire kind of his ideology kind of just begins to crumble,
I mean, he realizes that they were lying to him. They were taking advantage of his idealism to suit their needs, and that's why in the Sokovia Accords he said countries, initiative, their motives change.
Yes,
and as soon as they point you in the direction that they want you to,
then, and that's again. Captain America was right.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, whoever tries to fight me on that.
I'm Team Cap too.
Yeah.
So we have a consensus.
Yeah.
Okay, production design. Yeah, we already covered that.
Yeah. Soundtrack and score. I thought it was amazing. I don't think it was as memorable as the first one was.
Right.
The first one was
there weren't as many songs. I mean, they had the sound design and the score, but
not as many songs for sure. Because there was a lot of songs. And I feel again, the first movie was such an event that everybody was oh my god, Kendrick Lamar is making this album. There was such a big thing on it, and the soundtrack again, the first movie, it won the Oscar for best sound design because it was amazing. It was so good.
Absolutely. I thought technically I loved the sound. I think they had kind of the synth that they would play heavy synth stuff.
Yeah.
And even when and I think they were going kind of a darker tone because Shuri was still on the dark side essentially, out for revenge. So it wasn't the heroic theme with her. It was almost a wow, a deep droning synth. But again, it stood out to me because sometimes it just really accented the scenes. Costume and props.
Binge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, except for maybe the Astro Boy, like the weird blue alien outfit.
I'm gonna have to look those up because
maybe not those, but everybody else's outfits. Very cool.
And I was underwhelmed with Ironheart's
suit. Yeah. But to be fair, like, I didn't actually miss that scene because, like, I was saying, I like ran past.
Yeah.
But like, I came back and she was already fighting, and I was like, whoa, that's like an anime character.
It's because it was like red and the blue,
and it was kind of very like round. Like there was a lot of like roundness going on, and I was like, okay, interesting. Yeah. And, like that and the blue outfit, I was like kind of iffy on, but like the Mayan characters, like those characters. So
again, the headdress and Tuma's wearing the skull of a hammerhead shark. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they didn't even have bones. That's like cartilage, but it was just the headdress was
so
like you would have in an indigenous culture. Whatever animals are there.
Yeah, that's what you use.
So they're underwater, so they're using. Not to throw a wrench in this, but what's her name had feathers on her head.
The one, the girl.
Yeah. And I'm just curious, why would she? Yeah.
I don't know if it was feathers. I don't know if it was feathers. It seemed like scales.
I'm pulling it up again.
It seemed like scales. Like it looks like feathers, but it's that's why I thought it was Native American. But it looks like fish scales, like fish tails.
Yeah, that's sort of or the fins or whatever you call it. Yeah,
that's what I think.
All right, yeah,
but it looks like feathers. Yeah,
it does.
Which is cool. Which is why I thought that was Native American. Yeah.
Which is a great, like blending of the two because it's a headdress like they would have, but it's based on fish.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
But costume design overall, Binge. Yeah, I thought it was very good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So.
And then what's the
that's it. That's it.
Reader rating?
Yeah, okay, let's say out of 10.
Out of 10?
Yeah, what would you give this?
8.
8?
Yeah.
8 even? Okay,
But here's the thing though, I always rate things higher because for the most part, I enjoy basically everything I watch. I hate when people are just like, will give something a really bad review because of like this technical and that technical thing. I'm like, for me, I'm just like, if I enjoyed it and I like appreciate the work that was being done, and you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like the most life-changing thing I've ever seen. Like it's a Marvel movie at the end of the day, but I enjoyed it a lot. I had a good time watching it. I shed a tear. So,
there you go. Well,
so
it
know what?
evoked emotion.
It did, yeah. So 8, yeah.
I'm going to go with you on 8, and that's so uncontroversial. I will say for a lot of the reasons you said, also because the fact that they could continue along the trajectory they were on.
Yeah.
With Letitia Wright in such a unforeseeable change in their casting and still be able to make this work.
Yeah.
And I really think that they set her up for the phase 5.
Yeah, future.
Yeah.
Which is gonna be insane. Like I feel like people are already kind of like tired of Marvel. Like,
yeah, I get
and I'm wondering when it's gonna kind of like die off because it's gotta happen eventually. But like I'm kind of wondering what's gonna happen there. But like the multiverse stuff that they're doing is interesting. But I want to see how much they can do with it.
Well, because they're doing the Dark Avengers.
Oh, are they?
Oh no, the New Avengers, and then there's that other one played with Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah, well, she's like the evil Nick Fury. She's like the bad Nick Fury.
She's Amanda Waller.
Yes, yeah, basically.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah, and interesting. I didn't know she had a relationship with
Martin Freeman.
Martin Freeman.
That's
there you go.
Cool.
That's I can't imagine that, and I don't want to imagine.
That's not my brain.
Yeah, but yeah, I will say we both give it 8 because, and also I love that. Again, it was done with care.
Yes.
And it had emotional beats that gave me chills. Yes. It's not the best movie I've ever seen.
No, not by a long shot, but it did what it needed to do. It was entertaining. It was what I needed from a Black Panther movie.
Yes,
for sure.
It told a story.
It
had cultural significance.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the most important things about this Black Panther movie. That was one, So yeah, overall.
Yeah, there you go. So those are the official scores for Meg and Julian at Binge Theory. First of all, Meg, want to thank you so much.
Of course, this was amazing. I love doing this. This was so fun.
We gotta
definitely do this again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear they're drunk movies here all the time.
Yeah,
So we should
almost like they,
And also, one of the things that I love about the Alamo, and we've spoken about this before, they play classics, stuff that I've never seen and had no intention of seeing until
they showed it here.
I mean,
because
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No. This place has such a love for film, and which is why the Alamo is such a cool place. There's one of this. There's only like a couple theaters that really care about the content that they're showing. It's not like your not to like, AMC, like Regal. Whatever,
Oh, they're trash.
Trash. But but like the Alamo really cares about the movie going experience. They care about the movies that they're showing to people. They care about they care about stuff like this, like the having conversations. It's just not just like us doing this is us doing this is not like a crazy special thing, because like there's film club, like they want us to have discussions like after the movie, and they have groups of people like sharing the movies that they love, and I think that's really awesome. And it's really hard to find, because it's hard to find people who love movies. I think it's weird, because I feel like movies is such a niche thing. You think about it, like.
Well, it's you know what, I would say it like this. I'd say you have foodies and you have people that like to eat a lot.
Yeah.
And to that point, I think the Alamo is catering to cinema fans that want to meet other cinema fans and have discussions.
Yes.
It's not like they're just trying to crank out tickets and say, okay, watch the movie, get out.
These movies that are coming, and then just like get out of our theater. Yeah.
Because they literally have a lobby with seating and tables so people can hang out,
to hang around, and they have like stuff like this at the bar. You
Exactly.
can bring your drinks out, and so that you can have these discussions. But yeah, I think it's great, and it's great because it's great for people to meet other people in real life. Because again, like I feel like compared to other media, I feel like TV shows or like music, music is such a big thing that everybody kind of has an opinion on. But for movies, it's kind of hard to find people who really love film. So it's good to have a place where people can come and watch movies together and talk about it.
100%. And the great thing about being in a theater is you have that shared experience. I mean, we could have watched this streaming, or in a year when it comes out on Disney, and you can talk about it, or you can do a show on it. Because we've done a lot of podcasts, video podcasts, based on the Disney showing of Star Wars or stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you don't have that reaction. Like when we were in the theater, we had people crying, people were gasping. When Killmonger showed up,
we were like, oh!
Exactly. So it's an experience as opposed to just witnessing something. You're experiencing something.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that the Alamo brings to the table.
Absolutely.
And again, don't work for Alamo. I'm not being paid by Alamo, but I really do appreciate them. And also just doing the show here at the location. I've been here so often. We're both here so often. I just brought up the idea. I said, I love doing these shows. Do you mind if I were to set up here and just do like a on-site shoot? And they were like, where do you want to go? Where in this place? What works for you? And just the premise that they really dived in and saying, how about Theater 4? There's this great angle you can set up. So
that'd be cool to do in the theater.
They were all in, and again, they didn't know me from Adam. They just said whatever you would like. We like that you're enjoying it, and we want to feed your passion.
Exactly.
So
great place.
Shout out to the Alamo.
Shout out to the Alamo Draft House.
Yes, and
amazing.
And again, you can't see him, but we have our friend Elliot here doing bartending.
He can't hear us because he has headphones in and he's cleaning, but he's awesome. He let us sit here and talk as he was working. So
I think he's listening to one of our other shows.
Most likely,
yes.
Yeah, absolutely, he is. Yeah.
But again, you got to come back. And I'm sorry it was just us. We couldn't get the rest of the team here, but this was an awesome,
great. Yeah, this was awesome.
Awesome experience, and the fact that you know so much about the MCU and other movies we've talked about, we're going to have to just crack open the entire.
Got a lot of knowledge in there.
Oh, it's if we could only use our powers for good.
Yeah.
The world would be a better place.
Absolutely.
But everybody out there, I want to thank you so much for checking the show out. We're going to do a lot more in the future. Don't forget, we're on all the social platforms, Twitch, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And we also have our podcast. So on any of the audio podcast sources you go to, we're going to be there. Binge Theory, you know how we do. And also, we have a merch store. So if you ever want to get some cool gear, like all the kids are wearing, you know, the hoodies, the sneakers, the mugs, what do you call them, tumblers? We have all of it. Just go to the store and you'll definitely see our merch. Thanks so much for joining us. And remember, if it's worthwhile, it's worth binging.